ever be. Gets more instructions from Armstrong. Well, the story continues to develop for Laura Wilkinson of the United States. Came into these finals in the 8th spot, but now as she gets ready for her second to last dive, she is in first place. The dream of a gold medal, maybe just 2 dives away.
And this is her biggest challenge, this dive here, she told me.
Well, hi there. How are you guys doing? Thanks. So I don't know, some of you guys may know my parents. Did you see my dad in that video? He's right up here. Dad, you want to give a little wave? Yeah. Yeah, he still likes to wear the ridiculous flag stuff sometimes, and I love it. It's awesome. Well, I'm so excited to be here with you guys. Did anyone watch the Olympics this summer? 2 of you. All right, there you go. Okay, a couple. So you may have seen some of the crazy people flipping off the 3-story building like what I do. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And one reason I love to share my story with people is because I think sports and life are very similar in a lot of ways. Like there's always these moments in both sports and life where you have to make these big decisions, right? You kind of come to this moment where you have to decide if chasing after it is worth that leap of faith. Can I really do it? It's terrifying. Is it going to work out? You know, it's these scary moments. And sports and life are very much like that. So I love sharing my story because I think it helps us learn, and it helped me learn how to take these lessons in the pool and put them in my life. And God taught me so much about the Bible through my sport, so I love sharing that. And 3 things I really want you guys to be able to take away from my story are joy, and that joy is not the same thing as happiness. Happiness is when things are going great, your circumstances and everything around you is going well, and you're happy, right? That makes you happy. But joy you can have even when things aren't great. Even when things feel hard or things are broken around you, you can still have joy. And I want you guys to learn a little bit more about faith. We talk about faith a lot, but what does it look like to literally take that step or that leap of faith and trust God with your life? Sounds easy. What does it look like, and how scary is that actually, right? And is it worth doing? And then the last thing I want you to take away from this talk is purpose. What is the purpose of your life, and how can that impact you and those around you, and why is it so important? Okay, so my story began on a pool deck one day where I saw this giant platform that you guys saw in that video there, and you know, who knows? I mean, I just said it was 3-story building. I mean, that's kind of high, right? It's 10 meters. If you're metrically challenged like me, that's 33 feet. Has anybody ever been in a 4-story building? Okay, so the next time you're in a really big building that's 4 stories, take a little peek out the window and imagine hurling your body out there, flipping around a few times, maybe adding a couple of twists, and make no splash. Right? There you go. Okay, that's what I do. And the first time I saw that 10-meter, that platform, I thought, that doesn't look so bad. So I ran up there for my first jump. And I ran right up. And the minute I stepped from that ladder onto that platform, my heart jumped right up into my throat. It was so much higher looking down from the top than it was looking up from the ground. Yeah, you know, you're nodding. Okay. So I took a few minutes to kind of steady myself because I thought, okay, well, I'm up here. I may as well just try. And so I'm gonna kind of just sit here for a minute. I'm going to take some deep breaths. I started to enjoy the view, but then I panicked because all my friends and my teammates are down there looking at me, and they've all done this before. And there is no way I can chicken out in front of them. But one look over the edge to that water, far, far below, all I could think about was how badly I was going to hurt myself, But the truth was, let me move this out of the way so I don't kill myself over here. I am very graceful in the water and on the platform, but not so much on dry land, so just bear with me here. So when I was up there, I had kind of made up my mind that this is what I was going to do. I climbed up that ladder, and I wasn't going to let myself back down, but I was terrified. But that's kind of how life is. Like, a lot of times we say, I want to try and do what the Bible says. I want to try and do what's right by my parents. I want to try and do the best at school. I want to try. But here's the deal, guys. On a 10-meter platform, you can't try and jump off. You either jump off or you walk back down the ladder of shame. And, like I said, all my teammates are there watching me, and I can't chicken out in front of them, but I'm terrified. But I had already made up my mind before I ever climbed up that ladder that I was going to jump off. My coach likes to say, you can't dip your toe in from the 10-meter to see if the water feels nice, right? You got to jump in with both feet. And that was my goal that day. I was like, okay, I am terrified, but I'm up here now, and I've got to do this. So I gathered every remaining ounce of courage that I had, and I inched my way till I could feel my toes curled over that hard edge. I looked at that water far, far below. I took a deep breath, and I let it out, and I extended my foot, and I jumped. And y'all, I felt like I was falling forever. I couldn't even get a scream out. My stomach had jumped up in my throat. But finally, I hit the water, and underneath the water, all I could think was, that is the single coolest thing I have ever done in my whole life. And I wanted to run right back up there and do it again. It was like the minute I hit the water, all the doubts and fears kind of washed away. So I thought, yeah, I'm doing this again. So I did. I ran right back up there to do my second jump, and when I stepped from the ladder onto that platform, those doubts and fears started creeping back in my head, It was still really high and really scary up here, and I wasn't quite sure if this jump was going to go the way the first one did. But the difference was, this time, I knew I was going to enjoy the free fall, even though it was scary. I knew somehow I would be okay. And that's like these moments that we have in life. When we come to this moment where we have to make a big decision or we have to do something really hard, it's like jumping off that platform. You don't know how it's going to go. You don't know if you're going to get hurt on the way down. You don't know if you're going to end up in a totally different place than you are planning on going or trying to get to, right? It's scary. It is scary. But everything we're trying to do is on the other side of the scary. And we have to take that leap. And what I have learned is every time that I have trusted God, when I know this is what he wants me to do in my life, and I've taken that leap, it doesn't always go the way I want it to. It doesn't always work out perfectly. But every single time he has caught me and he has been there with me through it. Doesn't make it not scary, but it makes it possible. And I love the words that he has in John 16:33 when Jesus says, I speak these words to you so that in me you may have peace. You will have tribulation in the world. Not an if. I have learned that. It's not an if. You will have trials and tribulations and challenges in this world, but, best but in the Bible, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. And so being able to trust in such a big God that is already won and is already victorious, yes, we face scary things and it's going to hurt sometimes, but we know he's going to win with us in the end. And that makes it worth going after. My first real shot at the Olympic Games was in 2000. I know that's a really long time ago for some of you, but I could see it laid out like some inspirational sports movie complete with soundtrack, right? Girl leaves college to pursue big dreams. She works insanely hard doing things men can't even do. She has a lesson learning setback, makes a big comeback, wins Olympic gold, the crowd goes wild, roll credits, right? Isn't that what we see in the movies? So easy, right? It's like all the music plays, it's awesome, that's what I thought it was going to be like. And I had been dreaming of that moment since I was a little 8-year-old gymnast. And I was like, this is it. This is my shot. But the reality was I was in college at the time at the University of Texas. Do we have any Longhorn fans in here? All right, my daughter and a few others. Okay, very nice, very nice. Aggies, I know we're in the same conference now. We can still be friends. It's okay. I was at UT. I was loving it. I was on a full scholarship for diving. Things were going great. I changed my major 5 times, finally figured out what I was doing. I had won 2 NCAA championships, won a bunch of All-Americans. I'd won all these things, had my friend group, everything was good and right in my world. It just looked on paper, it looked awesome. But the Olympics were coming. And that had really been my dream since I was a little kid. But trying to do a full load of school and train and go to all these college competitions and be ready to go to the Olympics, like, it was just too much. A college season alone is a lot. And I didn't know how I was going to make that work. And I thought, you only get one chance at the Olympics. Like, what do I do here? And it was kind of really a first hard decision I had to make was, do I leave school to try to train for this Olympics? Like, because I was in a position, this was a while ago, we couldn't redshirt for an Olympic training year. I had to give up my scholarship if I wanted to go train for the Olympic Games outside of college. And so that was my choice at that time. Do I leave my college scholarship, or do I try to do all of this at the same time and then somehow make it work? And, you know, I was really having a hard time with that. I thought, if this is my only shot, like, I have to do it. But my mom was freaking out. She's in the back over there. Oh, yeah. She's like, yep, I was freaking out. She's like, you've got to graduate, you know? And I'm like, but Mom, it's the Olympics. And my dad's like, do it. I'm like, okay, now we've got a house divided. I don't know what to do here. It was really scary. But we finally talked. I think my mom made me sign something that I would go back and finish my degree. Like, she had to make it official. But they were like, okay, you should go. You should do this. This is your dream. You should try it. So I thought, man, okay, this first leap of faith, like, this is great, right? I've got 2 months rent saved up in my pocket. I'm going here so I can live close to the pool and I can train full time. Like, this is going to be great. My dad even helped me get an agent, which helped me get a really small sponsorship, which basically paid for my rent. And I was like, man, take a leap of faith and everything just works out perfect, right? There's always a plot twist in the movie. That's what you forget. There's always a plot twist, right? So I was at Fort Lauderdale for a meet, and I was doing, in Florida, doing a typical meet warm-up, which involved doing flips or somersaults onto like a soft mat. That's kind of how we warm up. We're very gymnastics like that. A lot of us are ex-gymnasts. And I happened to kick out of this one somersault a little bit too early, and I hit both the balls of my feet on the wooden block that I was jumping off of. Yeah. So initially shocked, you know, I'm in pain, I can't stand on it. My coach takes me to the emergency room, and the doctor tells me it would hurt more and be more swollen if it was broken. So he didn't even x-ray it. And my coach and I are just, you know, we're not wanting to think something bad has happened, so we're like, okay, I guess it's not that bad. And so we take a pair of crutches, and we go back to our hotel, and I'm stuck here in Fort Lauderdale for like almost a week, and I am in excruciating pain. I can't sleep. I'm like on the floor with my foot up on the bed. I'm bawling 24/7. It's just awful. I finally get home 6 days later, and I go straight to our doctor, who x-rayed my foot, comes into the room with tears in her eyes saying, look, if I had seen this when it happened, maybe I could have reset it, but what's happened is basically your foot is a lot like your hand. You've got five bones in the middle called your metatarsals, and I broke the middle 3. And not only did I break the middle 3, like all of those knuckles, I completely broke off. And one of them slid underneath my foot, and within those 6 days had calcified to the 2 bones it was sitting next to. So it was like stuck underneath my foot. So she said, well, we have to re-break all of it, pin it back together. We were 3 months out of the Olympic trials. 3 months. I was like, is there a plan B? Is there anything else we can do? And she said, look, I mean, we can cast it the way it is, but you have a bone protruding underneath your foot. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to walk on that, let alone jump off of it. I said, well, cast it the way it is, because we're going to have to do surgery anyway. Like, let's just see how this goes. So she casted it that way. And that first week, that mix of emotions, oh my goodness. I mean, you've probably had it when, like, maybe school is not going well, your parents are upset at you, maybe you're trying to do after-school activities or jobs or sports or whatever, and it's just nothing is going well, and it's pressure, and it's intense, and you feel like your world's kind of collapsing on you. Have you guys ever felt like that? Like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and you just don't feel like you can bear it. And I remember thinking, I gave up my scholarship, I gave up all my friends, I gave up everything good and right in my world, and this is my reward for following what I thought God wanted me to do. And I remember the gravity of that just hitting me in the middle of my living room, and I dropped my crutches, and I remember just falling to my knees and just screaming at God. How can this be part of your plan? How can this be good for me? How does this glorify you, and how is this good for me that I'm here broken in a million pieces, and I gave up everything for this? I was so upset. But in the middle of my living room floor, with those tears, I also remembered that he was right there with me in it. And while it didn't feel good, I certainly wasn't happy. It was very painful. very frustrating, but I knew I wasn't alone. And there was joy in that because I knew I had someone to walk with me through it. And he will never leave you or forsake you when you're depending on him. And I knew in those moments, he gave me a dream. He asked me to do this for some reason. I can't just quit. And so I talked to my coach, and we came up with this completely lunatic plan of I'm going to pretend my way to the Olympics, right? We decided to focus on the mental side of things, which is a much bigger, more kind of known thing these days. Back then it was like, you're crazy. And so what we did was we did a lot of video study. I would just watch my dives over and over again. I put them in the order I was going to compete them, and I like watched them with my favorite like songs on my headphones, like so it was like burned into my mind. Anytime those songs came on, it was like I saw my dives on instant replay in my mind. When I was supposed to be in the pool training, my coach would hold my crutches, and I would hop up on my one good foot all the way up that ladder to the 10 meter, and I'd kind of shimmy my way out on the heel of my cast to the end of the platform. And I would go through all the actions of my dives on my one good foot, all the way through to that entry into the water. And if I had to face forward to do the dive, I faced forward. If I had to face backwards to do the dive, I faced backwards. I even did like a little half handstand, trying to feel like I was doing something. And my coach would coach me from the pool deck. If there were people in the workout with me, I had to wait my turn in line to make it feel like I was in the workout. And people thought I was crazy. I mean, and in the first little bit, it looked a little crazy, you know? I mean, this lasted 10 weeks. So 2.5 months. For 6 to 8 hours a day, I am watching videos and I am pretending to dive. Let me tell you, that got old real fast. I mean, that's a lot of time in your head. It's a lot of time to think. It's a lot of time to go through every emotion that you can imagine. And I remember probably a good 8 weeks into this, I just wanted to give up. The swimmers in the pool next to us were making so much fun of me, and I had just had it. And I was like, how is pretending to dive going to get me to the Olympics? This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of, and I'm the one doing it. And I remember there was just this moment, this one workout where I was about to lose it, and I was about to just walk away and just quit. And I had some teammates of mine come up to me. And these teammates, I was 22, I was coming out of college, coming back to train. My teammates were anywhere from 8 to 18. And I remember them coming up saying like, hey, I think you can do this. Like, don't give up. You got this. And it got to the point where I would do like a pretend entry on the 10 meter, like I was going in the water, and they'd be on the other side of the pool going, I didn't see a drop of water, I'd give it a 10, that was amazing. And it was completely silly, but it started to make me feel like I was part of something again, and I wasn't alone anymore. And it made so much of a difference, actually, that 10 weeks and 3 casts later, I actually got my chance to get back in the water, but I only had 2 weeks. 2 weeks in the water before the Olympic trials. And I don't know if you guys have ever been to an Olympic trials, but like it is a lot scarier in a lot of ways than the Olympic Games themselves, because in order to have all your dreams come true at the Olympics, you have to survive the Olympic trials and like win or get top 2 to go. It's really intense. Like it's all on the line there, and you have to be on that day. It's really very intense. So I'm getting this opportunity to go, and I am terrified because I've never been to a trials before. It's this really intense situation. But I am so overcome with joy because we got there. Because these weeks and just hours and hours and days and weeks of pretending to dive actually helped me get my dives back off and get to the Olympic trials. And so I am just overwhelmed with joy just to be there in that moment. And that overshadowed like the doubts and the fears that I was having in that moment. And I ended up winning the Olympic trials by over 40 points, making that Olympic team, which was this crazy, huge moment, right? I'm pretending to dive, and now I'm on the Olympic team. It was very surreal. But 3 months later, I find myself in Sydney, Australia, at the Olympic Games. And I mean, this is it, right? Like, this is everything. And I still wasn't able to train full time because, like I said, we casted my foot the way it was. So I still had a bone stuck beneath my foot. So I couldn't walk on my bare feet. Like, I looked so stupid, you guys. I had to wear this shoe, walk up the ladder, and then throw the shoe down from the 10 meter. Like, nobody does that. Like, who wears shoes up to a 10 meter to dive off of it? Well, I do, and I kept hitting the camera guys, and they're getting mad at me, and like, people are like, oh my goodness, like, the shoe is falling from the sky. It was embarrassing. I felt really dumb, but I was like, I'm here. It doesn't matter what it looks like. I'm here, and I got here. This is awesome. But it's the Olympics, you know what I mean? And it was absolutely amazing. We were a month there training before the competition even started, because you got to get adjusted to time zones, to get used to the facility and all the insanity of the Olympics. but it was absolutely amazing. And I had had a decent preliminary round, and they cut into like the top 18, and then you do the semifinal round. They kind of add some scores together. Then you make it to the final round, which are the top 12 divers. And in the final rounds, we do 5 dives. Now, they seed you, like they rank you according to how you did in the earlier rounds. So I was ranked 5th. But point-wise, when they dropped off some of the earlier scores, I was actually in 8th place, which is what you may have seen in the video there. So I was like 30 points behind the leaders. But I'm ranked 5th, so like we're going to go in reverse order. The top 4 girls are going after me. And I have seen these girls. They're Canadians and Chinese girls, and they had been hitting every dive for the entire month that we were there. I don't think I ever saw them miss. They looked like machines. It was crazy. But all these things, I had been journaling through it all. I'd been praying through everything. And like, I'm a big quote person. I love verses and I love quotes and all of it. And I remember as they marched us out to introduce us into like the audience before the finals. And I remember as we wave and we're turning to go back, I remember this one quote that I love that says, "You don't have to have the lead if you have the heart to come from behind." And I kept thinking, man, like that is so me right now. I don't have to have the lead, but man, I must have more heart than anybody here because we are here after what we went through. You know, one of my favorite scriptures is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You guys probably have heard that one, Philippians 4:13. What a lot of people skip over is what Paul's talking about leading into that, when he's talking about like, I know how to have plenty and I know how to be low. Like I know how to be brought low. And in all of those things, Christ is my strength. And that was just what I felt like we had been through. I had had this high from college doing amazing, and I had been brought very low. And here I was, kind of in this surreal environment, and it was like, I'm here because of you and for you, and I'm so excited. Like, it was just an amazing situation, but terrifying, because it's the Olympics, right? Like, let's be real. So we have 5 dives. My first 2 dives were good in that final. I'm getting 8s, 8.5s. 10 is perfect. If you're getting above 8, you're doing great. But the top 4 girls that are, ahead of me, they're getting 9s. So not only am I not catching up, I'm actually falling behind with these great first 2 dives. But, I'm thinking, okay, I've got 3rd round is coming up. This is my money dive. Like this dive, I had gotten 10s on at the Olympic trials. I had gotten 10s on at the nationals. Like I knew I could do this dive really well. So I went and I put my headphones on because we want to get in that perfect athlete zone. Does anybody know what the athlete zone is? Have you heard of that before? Yeah, state of flow. So it's this nice balance of kind of like nervous energy, but you can control it, right? It's this like just this perfect vibe and feel that you want to be in. So a lot of people like to listen to music because that can pump you up real quick, or it can calm you down, right? So I loved putting my music on, so I put my headphones on, but I'm going to date myself here. This is before you could just plug in your phone and recharge it if it dies. I had a Discman, which required 2 AA batteries, and I did not pack extra AA batteries, and my Discman died. So I'm sitting here in the middle of my Olympic final with the most important dive in my list coming up, and I have no music. And so I did what any elite athlete would do. I panicked. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I didn't do this. I can't believe I didn't pack extra batteries. I'm always so prepared, and I'm completely freaking out. And then I start laughing because, of course, that's what I would do. After all of this to get here, I would forget extra batteries. That's just so poetic, isn't it? And I started laughing, because that's just ridiculous for that to happen right now. And I'm just sitting there and I'm laughing, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need music to do this dive well. I don't have my headphones on when I'm up on the 10 meter doing the dive. I know how to do this dive. And I remembered a sermon I had heard. So I'm 22 years old here. I was remembering a sermon I had heard when I was 14 in 8th grade. I remember this pastor came and he passed around to all of us these little tiny mustard seeds. My kids know, I've let them hold the mustard seeds. It's this teeny tiny little little tiny seed. Grows up into a big, huge plant, like a mustard tree. But these little tiny seeds, and you guys have probably heard that verse where it says, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will be done. And for some reason, I just remember in that moment as I'm laughing and I'm thinking about all this, I look at my hand and I just see the mustard seed. And I remembered, like, I'm not here because of anything that I did. I'm here because of you, because I couldn't have done any of this on my own. And that's when I got up there, and I remember they called my name, they blew the whistle and called my name, and I walked up to the end, and I lifted up my hands, and I just knew in that moment, like, I'm putting it all out there because I'm going to trust you with it. and it was great. I got like 9s and 9.5s. It was one of the ones that had like barely a drop of water coming up. It was a great dive. I go over to my coach, and he's like, great dive, calm down. You've got 2 more left, I'm like, okay. So I go in the hot tub, and we go in the hot tub, by the way, because it's freezing in there. We got to keep our muscles loose. So I go in the hot tub, kind of dip in, get warm, and I go back over to where all my stuff is. And I sit down in my little area with my towel, but I don't have any headphones to put back on. So I'm now hearing all of the things going on, and I hear really low scores. And I kind of panicked because I'm supposed to be the 5th seed, so the top 4 girls go after me, so I should be continuing to hear these really high scores that I'm always hearing from them. But I hear these low scores, so I thought, did I hang out in the hot tub too long? Like, did they start the round over? What's going on? And so I'm listening for the next girl. Sure enough, it's the 3rd place girl, and I was like, okay, that's weird. Canada just missed, but whatever, doesn't matter. I got to focus on my next dive because I have no music. Like, I got to figure out what to think about. Then I hear low scores again. I'm like, wow, that's strange. The other Canadian just blew her dive, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I still have a dive I have to think about. I can't worry about what's going on out there. I couldn't see the scoreboard. It's just what I'm hearing. Then I hear low scores again and low scores again. These Chinese and Canadian athletes that I had not seen miss a single dive for an entire month in training all blew their dives in the exact same round. I couldn't see the scoreboard, but I knew that since I was about 30 points behind, I must have caught up or at least be within striking distance at this point. What I didn't know was I actually pulled into the lead in that round by like less than a point. So I now put myself on the map, and I didn't realize that, but I knew I was in the hunt, but I've got this dive coming up. I have no headphones, and this is the dive I had been struggling with since I broke my foot because, as I told you, when I hit my feet on that block of wood, I was doing an action where if you're standing, like your feet are on the platform, and this is the water, and this is the platform, you stand backwards with your back toward the water, but you throw at the platform. That's just scary anyway, right? Like, why do we do that? That's kind of crazy. But that's this action. It's called an inward. And that was the action of this dive that I'm about to do, which was why I was scared. I was afraid I was going to hit the platform. But it also, you put all the weight on the balls of your feet to push down to get that trajectory you need to flip. I had a bone protruding underneath my foot. It was super painful to put all the weight on the ball of my foot. So this dive hurt like all get out, and it was terrifying because I thought I was going to hit my foot again. So I had been, this is the one dive I was struggling with since coming back. And I would just push it out in the middle of the pool because I was scared, so I wouldn't make it all the way around. Like, it was just the one rough one. So I was like, I have no music. I don't know how to plan for this. I'm terrified because now I know I have a shot and I have this dive coming up. Great. I'm going to go to my coach. He'll know exactly what to say because he always just knows how to push my buttons. I'm going to go talk to him. He's going to make everything better. And I went over there and I was like, okay, what do you got? And Kenny looks me right in the eyes and he says, do it for Hillary. And he walks off. So Hillary was a teammate of mine that we had lost in a car accident 3 years before. So she was a gymnast, and I had idolized her as a gymnast because I wanted to be an amazing gymnast and never was. But she was an alternate on the 1992 Olympic gymnastics team, and we actually started diving the very next year together. And so I had always looked up to her. She had been just the closest thing to the Olympics that I'd ever, closest person to the Olympics that I'd ever met. So I was always picking her brain about stuff and asking her questions. And now he's telling me, this teammate that we've lost, do it for her. I'm like, I'm in the most important moment of my life, and you're trying to make me cry. Like, how is this going to help me right now in this moment? But I trusted my coach because he knows how to push my buttons, and I was like, he must have said that for a reason. So I need to trust him, and I got to go there. And so as I'm walking up this platform, I started thinking about Hillary, and I started thinking about fun times with her and good memories, and then I thought about this one dinner that we had had. And I remember asking her, do you think that you would try to go to the Olympics for diving? Because you almost made it in gymnastics. Do you think you would try to go in this sport? And she said, I don't know if I could come so close again and not make it. I just don't know that I could live with that or deal with that. But Laura, if anyone on our team is going to make it, it's going to be you. And I remember that always kind of stuck with me. And it also made me think about all those little teammates of mine that didn't let me quit when I wanted to, that were supporting me. Not everybody has a chance to be in that moment that I was in, to be at the Olympics, and I knew that. I knew they weren't all going to have this opportunity. I knew I was their opportunity. And they were all rooting for me because I was like their chance. And that may sound like a lot of pressure to put on yourself. It didn't feel like pressure. it felt like a power behind me because it gave me purpose. It wasn't just about me and something that I wanted to do. I was now doing it for someone else, for a lot of someone else's. And that gives you a reason to not worry about the pain, to go through the pain, to not be afraid. And I remember as I get up for this dive, they call my name, and they blow the little whistle, and I walk to the end. And I turned around, and I lifted up my arms, and I felt like I was 6 feet tall. And I know I got some big wedge sandals on, but I am not 6 feet tall. I just felt tall, and I felt strong, and I wasn't scared anymore. And I was like, if I'm going to hit the platform, I'm going to hit it looking good, but I am going to give this thing everything I've got. And it was by far the best one that I had done since I broke my foot, and it kept me in the lead. And I went in the hot tub again. I got warm. My coach was like, great dive. Calm down. You've got one more left, trying to keep me calm. But everything kind of changed. I went back to my little waiting area. I wasn't worried about the music because I knew my last dive was going to be a solid dive. I just didn't know how good, but everything changed. My whole reason for giving up my scholarship, for fighting through what I fought through to be here, everything changed. It wasn't just for me anymore. It was just so different, and I didn't really understand it. But it gave me such a different feeling and a different, excitement and a different strength going into this. And I remember before my last dive, standing up there, realizing that, I am now, it's not just my thing. This is, everybody's opportunity. Everybody who is dreaming alongside of me, I'm doing this for them. And I have this panoramic picture of my head of, where everything was, where my coach was, and he's up there going, yeah, like that, and I see my family, way down over there. And this was so awesome. You guys go say hi to my brother. He's sitting out there at the end. But he was over 17,000 crazy people in the stands. I could hear my brother, which is how I spotted my family, going, that's my sister. And it was awesome. So I was like, my family is right there. They're going crazy. My dad's got his flag sticking out of his hats. It's awesome. And I see my teammates over here. They're going crazy. And I remember that moment going, I don't know what's about to happen. Maybe I'll win. Maybe I'll end up 5th and I'll get nothing. But right now in this moment, God has given me the chance to live out my dream. And just this is awesome. And it was a good dive. It wasn't a great dive. But, as we waited for the last 4 girls to go, I'm watching my coach. He's watching the scoreboard. And after every girl goes, he turns around and he's doing this. I'm like, okay, I don't really know what that means. I guess it's good. And after the last girl goes, he comes running over and picking me up, just saying, we did it. We did it. It was this amazing moment that my coach got to tell me when we won this, which is pretty cool. This is actually my Olympic gold medal. You guys can come touch it afterward and hang out. It's pretty cool. And this was an awesome moment because, yes, it was something beautiful that I worked toward, that God somehow gave me favor in despite all of that to win. But y'all, I went to 2 more Olympic Games. I didn't get any more of these. But it didn't make those times not worth it. It doesn't make me regret going after them just because it didn't work out every time. Sometimes God puts these goals and these plans and these dreams on our hearts, and it's not so that we'll get this thing in the end all the time. It's so that he can direct our path and take us where he wants to go and use us in the ways he wants to use us and orchestrate things in a much more beautiful way than we ever would on our own. I tell people all the time, if I hadn't broken my foot, I can guarantee you I would have been on that Olympic team. I was one of our best divers. I know I would have been on that team, but I can guarantee you I would not stood on top of that podium if I hadn't broken my foot. Because he allowed me, not saying he broke my foot, because he allowed me to break my foot and go through that, I became who I needed to become to do this and to inspire others and to change things for other people. So sometimes he allows brokenness in our lives. Sometimes he allows pain and suffering because he has a much more beautiful plan in the end. So finding joy, even when things hurt, even when you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, we can have joy because we have God, because he is not going to leave you and he's not going to forsake you, and that is joy. You will never be alone, whatever you're going through. And faith, you can have faith. We talk about this quote with my kids. It says, faith begins where the facts leave off. You don't need all the proof for faith. You just have to make a choice to believe, to trust in him, that he will work things out for his glory and for your good, whether it means a gold medal or it means a 5th place or it means you're supporting somebody else doing that. It may not look like what you think it will, but he will make it beautiful when you trust him. And purpose. It's great to have goals. It's great to do things that you are driven to do, but when you have purpose beyond yourself, it's just a more beautiful thing. I've done a lot of cool things, but the times I've gotten to do it with or for other people has meant so much more because it's not just about me and it impacts others, and there's like a ripple effect that happens with that. And so, I want to give you guys the opportunity, if there's anyone in here who's not taken that leap of faith to trust God with their lives, we don't trust God because he's some genie in the bottle to give us the things that we want. We trust God because of who he is and what he's already done. And because we know the end of the story, we know he's going to be victorious, and he wants us to give us a chance to be that with him. When we choose to follow him, when we say, Jesus, I know you died on the cross for my sins, to pay for all the mistakes I've made and that I will make. Anytime I just miss the mark of your perfect, holy righteousness, you've already paid for that. And so when you look at me, you see your son's blood and not my own mistakes. He gives us that opportunity to reconnect with him there and to trust him in that. And it is just, there's nothing like it. Because he will orchestrate your life in a different way than you're expecting, and it will be so much better than you could ever dream. So if anybody would like to come up here in a few minutes, I think are we going to do another song? Is that kind of the plan? If anybody wants to come up here and pray with me to ask Jesus into their heart, to take that leap of faith with him, to trust him with your life, I'm here for you. And I think we're going to do a little Q&A after the song as well. Okay, so I'll go ahead and lead in a prayer as they're coming up here to do a song, and then if anybody wants to come up and pray with us, you totally can, okay? God, thank you so much for today. Thank you for bringing every single person who is in this room. You chose them to be here. They needed to hear this message for some reason, or be with the people in here, or to share the message with someone else. I just ask that you give them the ears to hear and the eyes to see, Lord, what you want for them and in their lives, Lord. We love you, and we just ask that you move in here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Are you hurting and broken within? Overwhelmed by the weight of your sin? Jesus is calling. Have you come to the end of yourself? Do you thirst for a drink from the well? Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Leave behind your regrets and mistakes. Come today, there's no reason to wait. Jesus is calling. Bring your sorrows and trade them for joy. From the ashes a new life is born. Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was brought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ.
You didn't know that, but you do now. I have a question for you, Ed. Yeah. Do you still have the hat? Yes, I do. All right. Okay, so, anyways, here's the plate, guys. As they're doing this, if y'all want to go ahead, if you have any questions for Laura, go ahead and raise your hand and she'll call them and she'll ask them, okay?
For those curious, I did keep my promise to my mom, and I went back and graduated from college. So I did get my degree. Still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up, though. Yeah. Like sport? The very first sport I did was gymnastics. So. Oh, like major? My major? Oh, I tried lots of things. I actually loved architecture, like designing buildings and things like that, but the program at University of Texas was really intense, so to do that in athletics was hard. So then I went into architectural engineering, hated that. Then I went into computer science, hated that. Then I went into journalism, somehow ended up in public relations. I don't really even know what that is, so now I just talk to people and write books and do fun things like that. I actually coach athletes now on mindset and performance too, which I love because that's the part I never wanted to be good at, but ended up getting really good at, and now I love helping athletes move past mental blocks or any kind of like pressures or challenges they deal with. It's fun. Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Don't be scared. Alton, you got a question?
Oh, yeah, back there.
There you go.
Great question. Yes. So I went to have surgery a couple months after the Olympics, and they were going to re-break everything and pin it all back together, and it was going to take a long time to heal. But when they got in there, they took that bone out from underneath, and they said, you know what? I think it's okay just taking that one bone out. I don't think we need to re-break it. We don't want to give her more problems with arthritis later. So I actually had a very quick recovery. I still lose feeling in it sometimes underneath, but it works for the most part, and I can wear nice fancy shoes. See, so we're good. Yes. Would I do it again? So I went to 3 Olympics. My dad's laughing over here. And I retired at 30. And then I went back again. At 43, I went to the Olympic trials with all 4 of my kids. And so, yeah, I liked it a lot. I kept going back. I couldn't get enough. So my dad's laughing. I made him go too. What? With his hat. With his hat. I don't know. What did you have that hat on? You probably had a different hat on. Oh, there you go. It's in the display. Yes. How old am I now? You think I look 21, right? Thank you. I was 22 in 2000. I will let you work out the math, okay? I know, I look young. That's all you need to tell me. It's okay. I have 4 children. I'm not scared of these questions. Almost. Yes. Yeah. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Okay.
So are you going back to do the Special Olympics? Or?
Great question. So I went back at the last one in 2021 to the trials. I didn't make the Olympic team, but I went back to the trials, and I am officially retired. So, yes. Not going back anymore. My mom's like, yes, thank you, finally. Yes. Yes, so I actually broadcasting. It was fun. So I worked for NBC this summer in Paris at the Olympic Games. I got to talk about all the diving and stuff, which was really cool. It's very different, but it's kind of nice to be dry and not in a swimsuit and just talking about the diving. That was a lot of fun and much less stressful. But it was cool. It was a little hard because our divers didn't do that well, like our American divers didn't do that well this summer, but it was fun to be part of it from a different angle, so it was pretty cool. And with media, it's kind of cool. You get a little pass, and you can sneak into any venue and just sit in the media section, so I got to go to gymnastics and swimming and volleyball, and it was fun. Lots of stuff. Very cool. Did you have a question? Okay, sorry. Yeah. Oh, who? Oh, you, again.
What's a major?
What's a major? Okay, so as you get closer, what grade are you in? Okay, yes, you got a long ways to go. But when you get into college, you choose what you want to focus on studying, like what kind of job you want. So that's what your major is. It's like the thing you want to study. Good question. Over here. My favorite part of the Olympics. Okay, well, I was always an Olympics junkie because I wanted to go since I was like 8. So I think my very first Olympics especially, it was like seeing the rings everywhere, just on everything, and it's like the whole world comes down in this little place for about 16 days, and it's kind of like a circus everywhere you go. but seeing the torch lighting is the absolute coolest, because it's like you're watching this torch go by and you're like, that is my fire inside me, and I'm seeing it out of my body and being lit in this huge like cauldron or whatever. It's different every time. Like that, to me, the torch lighting is really, really cool. Yes, Zoe. How many belly flops have I done? I think my daughter has seen a few of them, so yeah, she's flexing. I've done a lot of belly flops, and let me tell you, a belly flop off of a low board is a lot different from a belly flop off of a 10-meter platform, and I have done a lot of those. I've knocked the wind out of myself. Yeah, lots of bruises from head to toe. I may have had some concussions. I'm not sure about that. They weren't really checking for those back in the day, but I'm still here in one piece, so that's good.
So, to put it into perspective, because these guys don't have three-story buildings, to jump from three-story building is like jumping from the top of the steeple at the church. Right?
There you go. That's a good. That's a perfect.
Steeple when you walk outside.
And be on the very tippy top. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you have a question? That is a good question. And you know, so she said, when you win gold, you've accomplished like your huge goal. Like, what do you do next? And that was hard because everybody kept saying you should quit. You won everything. Like, you should just go out on top. But for me, I knew I was capable of doing harder dives and doing better. So I wanted to see how far I could go. So I kept going, and I did not go back and win another Olympic medal, but I did win 2 world titles, and I ended up doing dives in 2008 that a lot of the men weren't doing, a lot of the men still aren't doing. I pushed women's diving really far, and it was interesting. There were like 2 or 3 of us ladies doing that, and once we retired, our event just completely fell off, and the girls still aren't doing as hard a dives as we did 20 years ago. So it was interesting. I'm glad I went forward, even though people were telling me to quit, because I had my own reasons and passion for doing it. That's hard to do sometimes when your friends are telling you to do something else. The world titles? Like, I won world championships and the World Cup. Yeah. So I've won every world title in my event. This is me over here? Yeah. So I did gymnastics first. I was an acrobatic person, loved the flipping and stuff, but when I quit that, I tried tennis and softball and track. Took me a little while to find the pool, but at the end of my freshman year of high school, so I was 15, almost 16 years old when I started diving, which is kind of late, but the gymnastics background helped, and I loved it. It was good. Yeah, one more back there. If I could do any other Olympic sport, what would I choose? My oldest does volleyball, and that looks really fun. But I always thought beach volleyball would be great. You know, you're out on the beach, the sunshine, but I don't know, 2 people on the court, that would be really hard. So maybe not. Yes.
Which one's your favorite?
I'm not answering that question. We don't want to start any fights. All right, yes. Did I miss gymnastics? Oh, yeah. Gymnastics was my first love. But getting to do gymnastics into water, which was kind of what diving was, that kind of filled that gap. So, yeah. Yes. Well, you know, that dream of going to the Olympics as a gymnast that I had when I was little was always kind of there. And even when I quit gymnastics, for some reason, I still thought, I want to go to the Olympics. I just needed to find a sport. And I know that's kind of a backwards way of thinking, but that's exactly what I did. I was trying to find a sport that I could get to the Olympics in. Isn't that so? I know it's totally different, but it's okay to be different, you know? All right, well, I think I've stunned them into silence. Do you have any other questions?
I don't think so. Is that it? Anybody got any last questions? No? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You guys can come check this out after if you want to.
Just real quick, be sure to talk to her on your way out. She'll be back there. You can see the medal, which is kind of cool. It's really cool, actually. All right, remember, 2 things. Tomorrow after school, if you're able to, come up here and help us out. Okay, we'll be setting stuff up. The next thing after that, listen, Friday at 12 o'clock. If you can be here Friday at 12, be here Friday at 12. Okay, we've got 120 pork butts that got to be rubbed down with spices so we can stay up all night cooking. Okay? All right, let's stand. Rub down for us? Yes, be here Friday as well.